All right, locker room. This is it. I've been teasing it for a couple of weeks now. You may have seen me pop up randomly doing semi live streams. We got this figured out thanks to Corey and Bennett. They're here with me from a really awesome new fantasy platform called All Cards Wild. Easy for me to say. I'm really excited about this. This is exactly the kind of fantasy football that is bringing me back to the game because I know one of the things that used to drive me crazy, there are two things that would drive me crazy about fantasy football. One, my team almost always blew up by week 4, and I would be like, God, it would drive me crazy. And then I had such a hard time sticking with the same team throughout the entire season. And this, I feel like, is exactly the answer to a couple of those things. So I'm really excited, Roomies, to tell you guys about this. Thank you all for being a part of it. I'm really excited that All Cards Wild is giving us the chance to have you guys sort of look at this first. So it's actually a really, really cool thing. And Bennett and Corey are here to explain it all. There's sort of some of the brains behind this madness. Really creative guys, really, really awesome. And I guess, Bennett, why don't I start with you? What led you guys to creating All Cards Wild?
Yeah, so basically what led to us starting All Cards Wild, obviously a lot of people when they play fantasy, they play this season long, you have the draft and you have this team for the whole season, right? And in a lot of cases, your league or team may not go well because of injuries, or maybe there's a trade, or maybe a different offensive scheme may not allow a certain player to perform at his highest level. So we made a weekly fantasy football version, obviously of normal fantasy football, where you will now draft your team every week. And instead of it being something where you're nervous about backups and maybe, this guy getting banged up and maybe I need to draft this, it allows you to have a whole different strategy and a whole different thought process of how you actually want to play fantasy football. The second part of it is we are doing a college version of fantasy football, which allows you to have different players from all conferences, SEC, ACC, Big Ten, Big 12, etc. And this allows you to get to play fantasy for college, which there's obviously a huge college football fan base, and with that, this will allow you to expand fantasy a little bit more to not only being a season long thing that maybe you'll get out of by week 4, like Seaton said, but this will be something that you could play week to week with your friends and anybody else that plays. So
Hey, Corey, I don't know if you would necessarily have any insight into this, but Bennett, by all means, jump in. But Corey, why do you think NFL fantasy has always dominated, and what has been so tough about getting college fantasy football sort of off the ground? Because I can't really think of any time that college sports has done really well in fantasy, whereas the NFL is just like, gangbusters.
Yeah. So I think like one of the big hurdles that a lot of companies have with doing college fantasy is just lack of data and kind of the transitional nature of a lot of players. They might play for one season, they might play for 2 seasons. So it can be hard to kind of put together good predictions and stats for players to kind of like actually build out a team for the season and know like, okay, I'm picking this is going to be my quarterback and my backup quarterback for the season. These are my wide receivers. It's just a lot harder to kind of make those decisions and predictions for players based on the amount of data, which I think is part of what works well for All Cards Wild. Since it's weekly, there's a lot more flexibility to kind of experiment, play with different players. You might read about a new tight end who's just starting for his first time this year. There's not a lot about him, but he's supposed to be really good, so you can experiment with that. There's a lot more room to play, and I think it works really well for this kind of weekly format.
Well, Bennett, you used the word earlier, vast, and I think, thinking about college football, it's so big. There's so many teams, there's so many players, there's so many conferences. I don't know how you can possibly get your arms around the whole thing into just one fantasy league. How is that as All Cards Wild as a problem to sort of tackle?
yeah, so that's a really good point, Zine. Obviously, going back to we were just talking about how the NFL, that fantasy format, there's 32 teams, 32 starting quarterbacks, 30, it's definitely a number that you can kind of harness and actually do a deep dive of knowledge into when drafting. obviously for college, there's hundreds of teams, hundreds of players, hundreds of choices to make. So what we did with All Cards Wild was by having this 5x5 25-person grid, it will actually show you the top 5 projected players in, you know, any division. It'll show you the top 5 projected players. So that already gives you a head start on people you might want to strategize around. But I believe that having the top 5 per position just helps narrow down that researching process it would take, hours to do. So, yeah.
All Cards Wild is a weekly fantasy football game. We have
Dang, dude, you could do all those conferences? You know what? It's crazy that you just pulled that up, Corey. I was just going to ask you guys. So what is it, like just SEC? Is it just Big Ten? Is it you got Conference USA in there, dude? Get out of here.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Oh yeah.
Sun belts.
Dude, you could play Sunbelt. So say I was a grad of I don't know, like a Mountain West school, pick any mountain. You could just do Mountain West and
Yeah,
play against like
absolutely.
your buddies that you went to school with.
Yep.
Dude, that is sick. That is, that goes right back to us getting like our arms around the whole thing. Wow, you guys really did. You guys really did. All right, so then, so then how does the game work? Benny, you were talking about a grid before. Can we dive into it a little bit and see what it looks like?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
100%.
So we'll take a look at. I'm just going to click into all divisions. All divisions is going to look at every division in the college football league,
Yeah.
and that'll give us just the most players. First step you have to do is give your league a name, pick some artwork. So we'll call this.
Let's call it can we call it the locker room league?
Yeah. And then we can pick from some preset artwork that we have, or if you are feeling creative, we have a little AI prompt tool so you can create your own artwork. Is there a prompt that might be fun for the locker room?
Man, that's a good question. Well, I guess we could start with a locker room setup, people listening to the radio, watching TV, sports fans. I'm just trying to give you prompts for that. So you just type that into the AI box and it'll generate something for you?
Yep.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I guess those would be the prompts I would start with.
See what it generates.
That's perfect. That's great. That's great.
Yep. So I love that. It's like, why are they all wearing headphones?
Yeah, because they're listening to the radio.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. So we got our cover picked. We've got our league named.
Yeah, rad.
Lock that in. So this brings us to the grid. So this is pulled in top 25 players projected for all divisions and conferences.
So this is like I'm sorry to cut you off.
Oh, yeah.
I apologize. I guess seeing this though has gotten me kind of fired up because I'm like, oh, I get it. Like I've seen that grid before, or at least something similar to it, like online. Have you seen that meme or the game where it's like, hey, build your all-time NBA starting 5, and like the top tier is like, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Wilt Chamberlain, whoever, and then the next tier is I don't know, Steph Curry and so. It's kind of a similar concept, but you never actually get to play that game out.
So yeah, funny enough, seeing that literally was part of the inspiration. Was we saw one of these type of grids on Instagram, and when we were creating this, we were thinking about we always want to play those grids on Instagram because they're fun. It's like you get to build your own team. And that was kind of where we got the idea of like, okay, well, let's actually take that Instagram picture of the grid and let's make it into a game and actually turn it into something in real life. So that was definitely a big inspiration for us.
That is awesome. And now you actually get to play the game out just like with your buddies.
Exactly.
That's so sick.
You have a budget, 15 points. Each player has a point value. You just need, as you select stuff, you'll see your budget clicks down.
Yeah.
So you kind of want to go through and you have to strategize and think about, okay, is it worth spending 5 points on this quarterback, or am I better off going with a lower ranked quarterback and really leaning into wide receiver and tight end.
Right, right,
Kind
right.
of
Or like if you're gonna, maybe you spend more on like an army running back since you know they're gonna run the ball a ton, and stuff like that,
exactly.
or whatever. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep. And so there's a bit of strategy there. And what I think is super cool, I'm not, especially not a college football fan. I like professional football. I will watch it with friends. I've played fantasy before. College football is very new to me. I don't know a lot about it. I don't know the players. It feels overwhelming.
Mm.
So we have this button, which will just randomly select players for you if you're just kind of trying to figure out and understand how to play the game, and it utilizes your budget.
So this is definitely built for like hardcore college football fans, but even the casual fan, or even if you don't really pay attention to it, but you just like to play the game or you want to be part of like in with the group or whatever, um, it's certainly friendly to that.
Exactly. Like it's 100% designed for the enthusiast and the person that loves to like think about strategy and kind of understand how players perform and what they might do, but also designed with the idea that anyone can join. And if you are friends with people that are big fantasy nerds, it's not a big deal just to like jump in and join and play with them.
I was gonna also mention too that for the people that aren't, or maybe they're moderate college fans, they know the big names. We do have a part on the grid where you can actually edit the grid, and you can pick. Maybe you could just pick specific players that you know. So you could pick quarterbacks like Dante Moore, Dylan Raiola, Nussmeier on LSU, any of those guys, you can change the grid to make it maybe for someone who doesn't know all the more niche names. You can change the grid to make it more like mainstream names, some would say. And that could also then make it more enjoyable for people who aren't just crazy college football heads.
And then so then when you swap out a player like that, say you change the grid, is their value sort of already assigned? Like, oh well, this quarterback is like will cost you 4 versus or does it just swap out in the place?
So it just swaps out in the place. So, you could put a quarterback that maybe he's only projected 18 fantasy points. You could, if you wanted to, you could put him at the 5 slot, the value 5, as Corey's doing right here. So it really gives a lot of flexibility to what you want to do and how you want to customize your grid. You could do the top 5 worst players of the SEC. You could do that whole league, or you could do the best players of the Sun Belt Conference. So it really gives you a wide range of what you want to do and how you want to play the game.
All right, cool. So then how do points stack up?
Yeah, so scoring system wise for the people that play fantasy football, we're using a standard PPR format, and for the people who don't play fantasy football, that stands for points per reception. So there's obviously a lot of different ways you can play fantasy. The way we're doing is the PPR way, and the nice part about it as well is there's no defense in this. So really tracking your offensive fantasy points is can be pretty easy to pick up on. So it makes it really nice. Now, there is a second aspect to how you can score points here, which is the card system.
Yeah. So what we've done is designed a whole set of modifier cards that you can play on individual players. There's cards for every position. So we've got cards for quarterbacks, cards for running backs, cards for your wide receivers, cards for your tight ends, and then we also have flex cards, which are cards that can really like be played on any position. So every card looks at, I'll jump back to quarterbacks, looks at a different metric. So Bazooka looks at passing completion. So it just wants to see like, is there passing completions over 22 yards or not? If they are, you get an additional six points for that. Something we're calling we call them wild card points. So if you know that you've got a quarterback that's going to be throwing a lot of bombs, like Bazooka is going to be a good card to play. If I'll go back to quarterbacks, if you have a quarterback that is going to be kind of like scrambling or having a lot of defensive coverage help, we have this card called QB's Friends, which is just about kind of the amount of times they get sacked in a game. So if they're sacked 2 or less times, you get 4 points because their defense actually did a pretty good job. So kind of pick your cards. Every position has different cards. every card is designed to kind of play on a different style of play, or even like a different game situation where you might have a team that generally runs a lot, but they might be playing against a team that has a really strong like defensive line, so they might pass more. So you strategize and think about that and pick cards that would work for that.
So, all right. So let me just recap a little bit just to make sure that I'm getting it right. So you get 5 players, no defense, 2 wide receivers, and then on each position, each of those 5, you can put a card on there, and that will sort of amplify the points that you get
Yep,
through
exactly.
that. That's great. How many cards are there total for the
I
whole game?
think so. We have 40-ish cards created. When you first join, you get a starter deck that's 15 cards. So that's plenty of cards to kind of get you in, start learning how to play, how to strategize, and use the cards. And it's as simple as like especially once you know what the cards are by name and art, just like looking at it and being like, okay, and drag it in.
Oh, yeah. So I would imagine that there's going to be like some cards that I just like that I normally use. Like, I just love this right here. This seems to be a winning combo for me. Like this quarterback and the bazooka. If I got somebody who's like air raid offense, just going crazy, I like that combo. I could just use that all the time. Or
Yeah.
do you don't run out of that card. If you play it once, then that's it.
There is actually that we have implemented into this with the cards. We do have a cooldown system with the cards that pretty much makes it so that, obviously people won't be using the same thing over and over and over, like you just said. It definitely, and then it will also add a little bit more of a, strategic aspect to it. Obviously, if you think Bazooka works really well with this quarterback that's throwing the ball, 35 times a game, it's almost like an automatic hit.
So say you're playing in a league with a bunch of buddies. One week you play Bazooka. Next week you can't play Bazooka in that league. But then the
Oh,
week
okay.
after that you can. So it's just like to help make sure that people aren't spamming the same like
Yeah.
card. It's a bit of game balancing, but also it's making sure that people are trying and different cards and experimenting.
Oh, okay, so I see. So I can't just like ride that one combination with the same, let's say, quarterback and card like bazooka. There is like a cooldown period.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a cooldown. And then another aspect actually with the cards is obviously, we basically made these cards because, everyone has had that situation in fantasy where you lose by, half a point or a point, or maybe you lose because like a QB takes a kneel in garbage time. So we made
Yeah.
these cards to try to get you over that hump, get you over the edge. Now, the one thing with these cards as well is you're taking a risk because for some of them, you may get an extra 8 fantasy points if it hits, but you can also lose 2 fantasy points if it doesn't hit. So it really kind of turns it into, for some of the cards, it fully turns it into a gamble and really how confident you are in your player's abilities to achieve the card's points.
Yeah, right on. All right, good. So there's a little more thought into it than just it's not just all plus. There could be the flip side of that.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah, wow. Wow, that's really interesting.
And that would show up on the back of the card, just where it says effects, success. So if it's successful, you get +8 points. If this card had penalty points below that, it would say fail in red and then -2 points or something like that.
Fail is the best. All right, so then I think we got sort of like the nuts and bolts of it down, right?
All right, so we just finished creating our league. Uh, we're on the My Leagues tab now, so this is kind of your overview of all the leagues you're playing in. You can see the current week. You can see past weeks that you may have participated in. Go back and see all those stats. Right here, this is the league we just created, week 3. You can see I'm the only person in it right now. If I tap on my name, I can see players that I picked, all the cards that I picked, and then this button, which lets me invite people to the league. And literally it gives you a URL. You copy it to your clipboard, and then you can send it to your buddies via text message, email, whatever kind of messenger you use or way that you prefer to communicate with folks. So super fast, super easy. Other cool things to note on this screen, there's this little pencil. So all the way up until all the way up until games begin. You can click on this pencil to go in and make adjustments. So if you realize, actually, I didn't like that quarterback, I want to swap that out, and maybe I'll pick a slightly better or higher ranked running back just based on what you've been reading for the week or hearing. So you can save that, and if you want to change cards out, you can do the same thing. So all of that you can continue to edit all the way up until games begin.
Yeah, dude, I love how just many schools are in there. It's like really awesome. Like it really is college football as a whole.
Yeah.
For just it seems almost endless. I mean, I know that there is an end to it, but man, it's a lot, dude. It's a real lot.
It is a ton.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So does that mean that basically the locker room league is created, right? So I can post that link in the locker room. People can start joining it, making their teams. Sharing their teams. I would guess you could share your like screen caps or whatever. And yeah, we're sort of off and running, I think, right?
Absolutely.
All right, sick. Well, I don't know. What do you guys think? Any other closing thoughts? Any other strategy tips? Anything you guys have learned while you've been developing this that might be a little bit of insider knowledge for week one?
I think one of my favorite things is as you start going through the cards, there's a handful of cards they're more or less gimme cards. Like there's one card that is this called the student section. Literally, if you played on a player that is playing at home, you get 2 points. So as long as you can read and don't screw that up, you get 2 points.
For my thing, I would say really take a dive into the cards, and really, if you're big into fantasy and you're big into college football, you can definitely pick some good players here with the cards that can give you the points, because really in the end, sometimes those extra couple wild card points can win you leagues. And I personally can take it from when I played in week one, I had Haynes King, the Georgia Tech quarterback, and I obviously knew from last year they love letting him run the ball on QB draws and QB sneaks and QB powers. So I played it on him. He had 169 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, and I played the rushing quarterback card, and it gave me 10 points, and it won me that first week. So really, as a takeaway, really, you don't have to do too much digging and research into it. Just a little bit of base knowledge can really take you the long way there.
Well, I mean, it's certainly a tall task trying to fit all of college football into one fantasy platform, but you guys did a really great job with it. I mean, it's a very simple format. It's got a lot of schools. It's got a lot of players. All Cards Wild. It's weekly, free, and easy. You guys did a really, really great job with this. It's really exciting.
Yeah, so, obviously for us, weekly, free, and easy, those are 3 words that we love put together, and we call that We Freezy.
We Freezy. That's great. That's great. Yeah. We Freezy. I love it. All Cards Wild. That's like throw it on the back of a t-shirt or something like that. We Freezy. Maybe we do We Freezy Fridays and just make it like, I don't know, a party. Get a DJ or something. Yeah, no, this is rad. It's really exciting. And you could tell, too, that I think that even just in its sort of beginning forms, you could tell that there's a lot of potential to grow this into a ton of different leagues, a lot of different cards, a lot of options that sort of, sky's the limit with the creativity here. Yeah, awesome. Well, Corey, Bennett, thank you guys for taking the time out. Thank you for letting the locker room sort of have first dibs at it and first crack at it. A lot of great people in the locker room from all over the country, schools from all over the country. And I think hardcore fantasy fans and people who are more casual are like, yeah, I'll give this a shot too. Why not? It seems like fun. So really looking forward to the future of it. Let's catch up again next week to go over how week one went, how everybody did, and sort of like what we learned there. But really looking forward to the season.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Enjoy week 1 or week 3.
Yeah, week 1 of the league, week 3 of the season. Yes. We got to work that out.